Hey, so if you're like me, maybe you bought an email sequence from a Facebook ad and you tried it out and something like this kind of happened.
Nice, okay, got a reply back from my email, awesome. Okay, what did it say? Please piss off, you scammy marketer. Let me guess, tomorrow is the big reveal and a fake countdown. Oh crap.
Maybe even worse, you built up a really big list of people on your email list, but every time you hit send, nobody replies. So why does this happen then? Well, in this video today, I'm gonna walk you through the top 3 email sequence mistakes that actually do the opposite of what they're meant to do. And these 3 mistakes, they do some pretty nasty stuff, like repelling clients. So unless you absolutely enjoy that feeling of rejection, every time you hit send, I encourage you to watch all the way to the end. And this is the first big mistake, and that is treating people like robots, right? Instead of actually treating them like people. So one of the most controversial books I ever put on my dating profile was "This book changed my life." And I remember sometimes I'd be messaging back and forth to people, they'd be like, "What's the book?" And I said, "It's the 48 Laws of Power." Now, when people read this book, it can come off kind of toxic, but there are some really good nuggets in this book that I think you'll find interesting. One of the lessons is always to resist the free lunch. And typically, whenever someone gives you something for free, there's an agenda behind it, right? Like free samples at the supermarket, like they obviously want you to buy because they know by giving you something, there's some reciprocity involved. But when it comes to say like email templates and selling them as like a $27 impulse buy on Facebook, you can't be wondering like, why is this person like selling it for so cheap? Like if they actually did make so much, why are they giving you templates, right? This is the big mistake that I first faced and I see other people do, and that's thinking that people are really stupid and they're robots, but they're actually not, like they're people. So here's another analogy to think about. Like, let's say that you weren't really good at dating and you wanted to get better at that first date so you could get a second date. What most guys might want to do is they might go get like a script or like the perfect line, and maybe they might go memorize it. They get through halfway through the date, like everything's going well. What happens if like the girl starts to look bored, or what happens if she looks disengaged, or like what if she changes the topic away from the script, right? You're moving away from the template. And this is the same thing when it comes to email sequences, because your business is different. There's little nuances. Every single business and customer has different objections, different pain points. Like if you want to separate yourself from the crowd, like don't say what everyone else is saying, like get more hyper niche, right? So this is the big reason why I don't like templates, is because you can't get more nuanced and people can really smell that there's this fake copy paste. It doesn't feel like there's a human behind the screen. There's no soul, you know what I mean? And just like with that dating example, let's just say like a successful date, like second, third, and she starts to get to know you, pretty soon, like the truth is gonna come out that you're not the person who you presented yourself with, that script. Well, if you're working with clients one-on-one and there's this disconnect from what you're actually saying when you're writing, and it's this copy-paste style, but people are kind of like, oh, this sounds trustworthy, I'll go with them. They actually get on a call with you and you're completely different. That's more short-term focus, right? Because in the long term, people are gonna be like, this person's fake. So the next time you see on a Facebook ad, this $27 product, $50, whatever the price point is, for every single email sequences you need, just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so this second mistake, I really regret not doing earlier in my freelance journey, and that's not letting data decide your next decision. So let me tell you this quick story, right? So I thought it was absolutely king in the world when after I did a 150K launch for one coach, and then an even bigger one, 247K, and then I'm like, man, like let's hit like 500K. I went to this person with a 12,000 person list. I did the numbers, imagining my hand like, oh, this is actually gonna be great. Guess what? It made probably less than 10,000 bucks that sale. And I wasn't sure why. I was following all the structures, all the same persuasion, but what I didn't realize is probably about a year later into my freelancing career, after I started managing lists, cool thing about that is that it's in an autoresponder. You get to see exactly who opens, who clicks, who actually books in for a call, who rejects the call. Like, there's a lot of data you can actually see. So every time you hit send and you play with a different angle, you get pretty much real-time feedback on your copy. So you might be wondering, so what is this mistake to avoid with your email sequence as well? It's not thinking whether you think if the copy is good and if it's gonna land well, it's letting your customers decide, right? And this is a mistake I made early on, is thinking I'm a good writer, I've had a good track record, I think I have a good idea. No, that's shit. Like, you gotta let your customers decide with data what is gonna make a good email sequence. Like, I literally can't believe I used to do this. I would sell packages of 10 emails for $1,500. So it's like $150 an email. And I would go interview their customers and put them in a sequence. Every single email was like an objection. I had some wins, but then other people had absolutely no calls, nothing. And I remember this one lady was so pissed off. She came back, she was like, I never have a no ROI on my purchases. Like, this is an outrage. Like, and I was just like trying to bend the knee, trying to do everything to fix a relationship. And if I could turn back time, young Julian, I would have said like, well, at least we know now there's like 10 ways not to present your pitch, right? And that's a learning factor. But going off the topic a little bit here, but the point is though, what I should have done is gone into their autoresponders and looked at all their broadcast emails. Like, what are those subject lines they're using? What are those CTAs that are getting people over the line to go click and book a call? Because those are the hooks. Those are the type of themes I would be wanting to talk about more in the rest of my email sequences. Does that make sense? Like, specifically, if we hit a hot button that clients are undermining you and then they're trying to drive down the lowest price possible, and every single day your Slack is blowing up, you can't really stay focused because every time you're trying to stay focused, the client buzzes in and says like, I don't know, some sort of interruption and you can't get stuff done. Well, you reckon that would be a few different types of emails we could use in an email sequence if that's what's proven to work in a broadcast. You damn bet. And if you don't really have the data, that's cool. Like, here's a little hack you can do. Go find your biggest competitors, right? Go to their lists, add them to your SWOT file, and just look at the emails that you would personally want to click on, right? That's going to be your canary in the coal mine, what you should be talking about. So this third mistake cost me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of frustration. I think it's going to really help you out. And that's forgetting to build trust with you. Now, if you're watching this, I probably imagine that you're using your face to market your business. And I've noticed a very stark difference between YouTubers that I've helped, like Wes McDowell, like Hamza, where there is so much inbuilt trust with their videos, versus the clients who have a video that they send cold traffic to who know absolutely nothing about this person, and you can see the conversion differences. It's between like 10 and 12 days, you can start to see a conversion with the people with a lot of inbuilt trust versus, get this, 60 to 90 days if they don't really know you. And I've tested this as well. Like, it doesn't matter how impressive the case study, it doesn't matter how big the numbers are, the time saved, the emotional stories. It's like, you know this as well as I do, right? People don't really care how much you know until they know that you really care. And it's like, everyone knows how to do this, right? And like, when you're trying to make friends, you don't want to be that douchebag who is just painting this perfect life. You want to be vulnerable with people. You want to show that you've made mistakes, that you're just like everyone else, that, you know, whatever, how you got to where you are right now wasn't the easiest of journeys. And this is what makes people trust you more, because they can feel like they're a part of you, right? Their story is part of your story too. So back to how this relates to email sequences, you might think that exposing a vulnerability, showing how you made mistakes in the past actually kills your credibility, but actually does the opposite, right? This is what I call kryptonite copy. So you ever wondered why they put kryptonite in the Superman movies? Superman can do lots of different things. He can flip cars, he can destroy his enemies, but if you didn't have kryptonite, like, the movie would be super boring, right? There's got to be a weakness, there's got to be tension, there's got to be a problem in the story, and you'll see that in many different protagonists inside of movies, books, and why not do the same thing strategically with your email sequences, right? The person reading kind of has to feel like either a part of you, or they want to be rooting for you, or at least feel like that it wasn't the easiest journey to get to the destination that they want to get to. And if it didn't happen to you, it's pretty simple. Find a client that it happened to and use their story. And this is why I think trust is the biggest mistake you can make with email sequences. So next time you go buy a template from a Facebook ad, or you get ChatGPT to create you one from some script that you found on the net, just think about it through the dating lens, okay? It's not gonna work if you're following some robotic magic script. There's nuances, you have to make it personal to you. You can't really expect to make any deep, meaningful relationships if you don't want to be vulnerable with that person, right? Oh, and my third tip about letting data make your decisions as well. Unless you're like a really psycho person who enjoys like writing everything down on a spreadsheet after a date for feedback, well, you know, maybe this last thing doesn't apply to dating. Oh shit, okay, I think my analogy just died in the water just then. But did you know the other thing that dies in the water are prospects that land on your calendar page? So there's this large chunk of people who are on your list, ready to go, but then something happens, like the dog comes in, or they get distracted, or they get cold feet the last second. Sometimes they just need a little bit of a love tap, you know, like a little bit of a push, a little gentle thing. And if you're curious how you can get more booked calls without being pushy or slimy and just using the right words, we're gonna go check out this next video over here. It's my complete A to Z how to build and monetize an email list. And you're gonna see exactly how I use email to make sure people show up to the calls and not get distracted or not get cold feet in the process.